Thanks for checking out this video. So the other day I was just randomly thinking about horror movies that would potentially make a really good series, because obviously there have been some horror movies that have been taken and turned into series. One of my favorites, not because it's like amazing, but because it's just kind of fun, was the sci-fi show for Tremors, which I do own on DVD. Yeah, it's not available on Blu-ray, unfortunately, but thinking about that and other things, it just made me start thinking in my head. I'm like, what horror films would be awesome to see turned into a series, and how would that be done potentially? So I then thought, well, this would be a really great video to just talk about and throw it out there. And then after I present 5 films that I think would make a great series and why, I would love, love, love to hear from other people. Anyone watching this, please comment on what you think would make a good series and how that should be executed, because I'm sure there's a lot I haven't thought about that would be wonderful ideas. So anyway, let's talk about it. Horror movies that could make a great series. These aren't in any particular order. It's just kind of the order I thought of them in. So the first one that came to mind for me was a film I love, The Cabin in the Woods. And my premise for it is that each episode could be one of these controlled situations. If you've seen The Cabin in the Woods, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't seen it, definitely see it. But it's those controlled situations that are being controlled by an outside entity, and there are different things happening, different villains, baddies that are involved. And obviously, you see a bunch of those within the film, but you don't get anything further. So I think each episode would be really fun to see as one of those scenarios being used, because obviously, with the story that's laid out in the film, it's been going on for a long time. So they could just fill in a bunch of things that happened prior to the events of the film and literally just lead up to the film. Or not even lead up to the film. Just be like, this is what happened in the past. And it could be awesome. Just think about all the interesting baddies that popped up in that and how they could be used and integrated into their own, little short episode, whether it's 30 minutes or an hour or whatever, or an entire season even. It would be awesome. So that's why I say The Cabin in the Woods. The next one I thought of was the Mortuary Collection, which is on Shudder at the moment, and should be on Shudder for a while because I think it's an exclusive for Shudder. You could make this basically like Tales from the Dark Side, but the narrator or horror host would be Montgomery Dark, hopefully played by Clancy Brown, unless they couldn't get Clancy Brown, in which case they try to get someone close, hopefully. Although, who's close to Clancy Brown? I don't know. He's very unique. But that character of Montgomery Dark just doing like a Tales from the Dark Side situation, super fun. And obviously it translates very easily from the film, because that's what the film kind of is already. It's just you wouldn't have like the overarching story that's actually there in the film. You would just have just these little, bite-sized pieces in a sense. So I think the Mortuary Collection would be just great for a series. And since Shudder already has the rights to the movie, I don't know, maybe work that out with Ryan Spindell, the writer-director. Just saying. People would love it. The next one I came up with is Puppet Master. I enjoy the Puppet Master films. I will do reviews on these films at some point. Not super soon, but at some point I will. Because when I do it, I want to run through like all of them. And I just need to be in that mindset. But my idea for the Puppet Master series is dolls that are mailed all over the world in ones or twos, and each episode follows one of those mailings. So there's someone who starts making these puppets again, these killer puppets, and they're like randomly mailed out. And sometimes it's just one, sometimes it's two, maybe you get an episode or two where it's like 3 or more, and each episode follows the package to a new place. Doesn't necessarily need to be someone's home. Maybe it could be a hospital at some point. It could be a retirement home at some point. It could be a, pick it, a bank even, a grocery store, like whatever. You could go so many directions with it. And each episode would just follow what happens when these puppets are unboxed. And you could come up with a bunch of new, interesting puppets. Because, as we all know, when you're first going through the Puppet Master films, one of the best things is seeing what new puppets pop up and what their abilities are and how they're dealt with. So if you have a bunch of series episodes that do that, It'd be a lot of fun. So Puppet Master. The next one is one that's on Shudder again, and this is another Shudder exclusive. So Shudder, you could do this. It's pretty recent. It's the film Vicious Fun. Now, I don't want to spoil too much with it if you haven't seen it since it's so recent. I would say definitely check out Vicious Fun if you haven't seen it because it is, as it says, it's vicious fun. It's very fun. So you could have the end of take the ending of the film and just go off of that, going around the United States, Carrie and Joel doing what they do. I'm trying to be kind of specific without being too specific if people haven't seen that film, but definitely check it out. But Carrie and Joel doing their thing all over the United States, and each episode is a different task, basically. Think about that. I think that could be a lot of fun because the way that film ends, it left me wanting more. It left me thinking, where does this go next? And I would love a sequel. And I would. I'd take a sequel film, but even better would be if Shudder would pick it up for a series. Or even if Shudder doesn't want to do it, someone else, anyone. I think it could be an awesome show. So then that leads me to my last one, which is very different. And hear me out on this. Rocky Horror Picture Show. As a series, now how would you do this, you may ask? It would basically be like an adult version of Glee, an adult horror version of Glee, but I think it would be best if it was cast with people from the Boulet Brothers Dragula. And if you haven't seen Dragula, definitely check it out. I watched all 3 seasons, plus their Resurrection special, and season 4 will be coming to Shudder on October 19th. I'm very excited. My wife as well. We watch it together, and we really enjoy it. I mean, the show, it's basically a horror version of RuPaul's Drag Race. A lot of fun, very interesting, very artistic, because that's how I view that stuff. It's an art. It's makeup art and it's performance art, and it's very interesting. It's very entertaining. So the Rocky Horror Picture Show, but contestants from the Boulet Brothers Dragula. And each episode could literally be like an episode of the show Glee, but it's way more adult, and it's all drag, and it is horror. And probably some filth and some glamour mixed in there as well, because that's what Dragula is about. I just see this as another thing that could be a spin-off from the Dragula series that could be wonderful. So if the Boulet brothers end up seeing this, which they probably won't, but if they do, that's an idea for you guys. Take it. Do it. That would be awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So that's it for me. Cabin in the Woods, Mortuary Collection, Puppet Master, Vicious Fun, and Rocky Horror Picture Show. Now, I want to know what films you think, horror films that is, you think would make a great series and why. Don't just tell me why. Give me your idea for how you would do it. Put it in the comments. Let's do this. Also, do me a favor, hit subscribe if you can, and you literally can, because it takes you a second, it costs you nothing, and it's your way to say thank you to me. If you like this video or any video I've ever done, that is how you repay me. It keeps me motivated, keeps me going, and, it literally, gets my endorphins going when I see I get a new subscriber. I really do enjoy that. So, but regardless, I really do thank you for taking your time to check this out. And until next time, keep it brutal.